So we're going to bust this open, and then we're going to kind of talk about sealed. I think this is Adventure. So, Brad, let's start with the shirt. Let's just hide this over here. They can't see all the sweet shit. Oh, man, do I have a Power Ranger shirt now?
What is this?
This is a green and white Power Rangers shirt. Wow.
Nostalgia. It says stuff in probably green and white.
I don't know. That's pretty nifty. I like that. That
seems like something you would wear.
All right, let's go ahead and take it to the next level here.
We're gonna use that as a background.
Brad's talked about this before. What do we got here?
This is a Rick and Morty. Nice.
Rick and Morty puzzle. Yeah. I'll bust that up over here.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll look at the next thing. Ice cube trays.
Bust it open.
This is Marvel. So it's got the Avengers.
Can you point out the Avengers we have?
So I'm not sure who this one's supposed to be. Who's this, Daniel? Do you know? Let's say on the back.
All right, here we go. Let's look at these together. We've got the Hulk. Let's point them out. We've got the Hulk. We've got
is that
the Thing.
Also? Oh, it's the
Fantastic Four.
Okay.
I think there's two.
He's not an Avenger.
There's two of the Thing.
There's an
two
Iron
of the
Man.
Hulk, two of the Iron Man, and two Captain America.
Oh, okay.
The Rick and Morty puzzle is actually a real puzzle, so we're not going to do that. It is a full puzzle. Let's not open it.
That is awesome.
That is a lot of puzzle. All right, reach around and grab something else out of this box.
Reach around. All right, Daniel. Team Fortress 2 buttons. That seems kind of neat. Look at that.
We got red, blue, a magical pony, and a sandwich. A unicorn.
That says it's edible.
It probably is. Don't doubt the buttons. Unite, an interview with Boom Studios, right? Up and coming. And all sorts of cool stuff in there. The comics, they're not always comics. The kind of insert, that's an insert about what's going on in there. Let's see what else we got.
There's some stuff about Rick and Morty in it. Oh, it's got, the males and female t-shirts.
All right, so we've got shoelaces. If you can't see it because it's so minute, but there actually is like the Marvel backdrop. You can see Captain America's shield and it's a bunch of Marvel. It's kind of blurry. All those little etched designs are.
I'm trying to get it to focus on that, but it's not going to do that. So that's pretty cool.
I have a car decal.
Avengers car decal.
Finally.
There we go.
Was it just a bunch of Marvel stuff?
Yep.
Not always. That's a Bravest Warriors comic. They sent one before. The people who make Adventure Time. They're pretty good.
Oh, okay.
It's pretty solid. And then a Mad Comics pun.
Nice.
And also Aquaman, which is an odd combination. But yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about...
That's
it.
Sweet.
Oh, wait. We have a pin, and it's Batman and Superman. Yeah. Shaking hands. Isn't that sweet? All right. So we're going to go onto the sealed pool. And
Sweet.
We're going to switch spots real quick.
Change places.
Oh, I like the hand motion.
Let me see all that stuff.
All right, apparently our stuff's being looted through. Looted, as we look this one. Rifle.
Oh, it's being rifled through.
All right. So we've got our packs here. We're going 6-pack sealed like normal. We're doing Cons of Tarkir because that's what we had laying around. Now, different people do sealed in different ways. And one of the things to remember about sealed is there's a lot of win percentage to be had in it. People do it the least amount, but it's done frequently at not only pre-releases, but also higher level events, GPs and the such. Whoa, I kicked this, Brad.
Yeah, stop doing that.
I don't mean to.
Now, I don't know how you managed to kick it, but you did.
Perfect. Ish.
Well, whatever.
All right, readjustment.
Yeah, keep going, Daniel. Keep going.
All right, so we're going to open each of these. We're not going to keep them separated by packs per se, or sets. We'll kind of go over each card as we do this.
I usually separate mine into creatures.
So Brad's going to show them under here, up here. He's going to show each one as he keeps going.
Also, I usually just throw all that aside. I set the rares aside, and then I sort the entire pack by color and creatures, non-creatures. Is that what you do?
Close. What I do is we're going to open all of the packs. We're just going to open them and go through the cards as we keep going. We'll set the rares to the side. Just so you guys can see them. We got 2 rares. We got Crackling Doom and Ruckshox of the Zero Rare. A Mantis Rider. 3 foil fetch lands this time. Not really.
And it happens. I mean.
Okay, that's just a regular one.
Yeah. I
Shaman.
just put this up.
Alright. So let's say we're building a sealed pool with all of this. The way I'm going to do it is close to what Brad said. First of all, I am going to have my rare cards kind of a little bit separate so I can kind of know where they're at. It's tougher in 3-color sets like this than in normal sets because usually I would just lump my 3-color cards together.
Yeah, there we go. 4 different 3-color cards.
Right. I put my colored cards together. So we have a lot of rares here. We're going to stack these up for now and come back to them in a minute. We'll put the Crackling Doom on top because it's shiny.
Yeah.
And
also, if you were registering this, you would actually have to register this full forest.
Yeah.
So.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to divide the cards into the 5 colors. But I'm going to take out all the cards that we consider unplayable. So here's my white pile. Abzan Slick Eye Captain's playable. My blue pile, Enhanced Awareness, is playable. Black pile, Typhoid Rats, is playable. Multicolored cards, which we'll come back to. It's a little trickier in big multicolored sets. I'm just going to do this for each of the cards, right? Alicia's Vanguard, Gore Swine, which I think is a playable card. Whisper of the Wilds, another playable card.
Yes.
Rune Mark, it's playable. I don't want to necessarily play most decks, but I'm fine playing it. Sure Shock, happy about that. Ruthless Instincts, it's okay. Shock Maul Dragon, right? Another fine card. Put my lands over here. They're all playable. My Rune Mark, Sultai, Abzan Rune Mark, Aven Surveyor, Ancestral Vision. Are we trying to figure out if we can scope it in a little better?
There's no way.
Okay.
You can scoot all the cards over. That's about it.
Yeah. Ancestral Vengeance is the first card that I'm going to put in my sideboard pile. Yeah, there we go. I don't think it's necessarily a quality card that I'd be happy having in my main deck in most things. So it's going to go in this pile down here of bad card pile, essentially. Warflare I'm happy with. Soul Summons I'm happy with. Alicia's Vanguard I'm happy with. Defiant Ogre is another card I'm not happy with. In many sets this card might shine, but that destroy target artifact ability just really isn't giving me enough here. Move in another green card that I'm happy to play. Another red card that I'm fine playing. Collateral Damage has enough synergy in other decks that I'd be happy playing it depending on the right deck. Rite of Undoing is okay. Pilgrim of the Fires is an uncommon, or not, it's a colorless card. So I'm going to put this over here below my multicolored cards. Another land. Rush of Battle, we're going to have to stack these up so it's a little easier for you guys to see. Disdainful Stroke is a card that I'm actually going to put in the sideboard because I don't ever want to mainboard this card. If I have to, I'm in kind of an awkward spot. Swift Kick is also a card that I'm just not willing to usually play or consider as high enough quality to make me actually want to play that color. Disown Ancestor, on the other hand, is fine. Active Treason is fine. A Free Weapon Master goes in our other pile over here in the multicolored cards, which we'll come back to. Siegecraft is a fine white card. It's not a high enough quality white card that I want to play it. Jeskai Wind Scout is fine. Dazzling Rampart is actually not good enough for me to want to play it in this set due to how kind of this set works out in general. In other sets it might be fine. Firehoof Cavalry is a white card with red text on it. I'm going to put this with my multicolor cards because it's where I'm most likely to play it. I can play it on my white deck, but if I am, I'm very unhappy. Wetland Sandbar. Not an impressive card, but it's just 2 for a 2/1. And I'm fine with that in blue. So I'll actually put that in the cards that I would be okay playing. Erase is going to go into the cards I'm not okay playing. Molting Snakeskin can sometimes go in a specific deck. We'll see if that deck's there. I'm going to put it down here where I wouldn't play it because I only play it in one specific deck. Woolly Lexodon we're very happy to have. Longshot Squad is another powerful card. Green seems to have quite a few. Black or Throttle's a fine card. Scout the Borders is a card that I'm going to put in the main because I would play this in several different decks. Most notably the Sultai deck, but I would also play in a couple other decks. Timely Horde Mate, another exciting card to put in the most decks. Secret Plans is fine. Heart Piercer Bow is underwhelming. Canyon Lurkers is fine. Smite the Monsters is strong. Treasure Cruise is another strong card. Aerostorm, strong. Awaken the Bears, another card I'm happy to have. Dutiful to Return, it's a card I'm happy to play one of. Another land. More lands is better. Throttle is a strong card. Ponyback Brigade is a multicolored card. Sign of the Glaciers is one of those cards to be very good if we're in a heavy blue. Roar of Challenge can sometimes be okay. It specifically goes in the Teamer deck. I think I would not normally play that more than often than I would. Take Up Arms is fine. Another Glacial Stalker, very happy about that. Shatter's not playable. Another Firehoof Cavalry. Martyr's Skull Hunter, strong. Awaken the Bears, another fine card. Kill Shot. Timur Banner, I'm actually going to put in my artifacts. I'm not likely to play it, but you're more likely to play banners and cards like banners in Sealed than you are in other sets, because Sealed is usually anywhere from a full turn to about a turn and a half slower than a draft. So you can play slightly slower decks. You're not going to die if you don't play a 2-drop. You're going to be in a bad spot if you don't play a 3-drop. And that's the big difference between draft and Sealed. Sealed plays a little bit less synergistically and a little bit more on raw power. Don't mistake it for a lot slower. You can't just skip your 3 or 4 drop, or your 3 drops completely, or your 2 drops completely. The other part with it, though, is that you rarely end up in a spot where you can just play a super aggressive curve because you don't have the sort of critical mass you normally need with just aggressive cards. All right, so before we look at all these sweet multicolor cards and lands and etc., we're going to kind of go down the list. We're going to move all of the cards I don't think are playable over to the side. Let's talk about those. Erase. Exiling an enchantment is not an effect I want. I don't think it's actually even sideboardable most games. Dazzling Ramparts is a card that may end up in a deck. If we have a very defensive deck, you could play it, but you don't normally want to play it. Like, Brad, how many times have you played Dazzling Ramparts?
I don't think ever.
Right. Now, how many times have you considered, how many times have you looked at it?
So I've definitely looked at it as maybe the 23rd card, and it usually still doesn't even make that.
Right, and that's where it's at. Siegecraft is the same way, right?
Yeah.
If you had to play a Siegecraft in a pretty good deck, if it was the worst card, you wouldn't be just, horrified, but you're not happy with it.
Definitely not.
Disdainful Stroke is the kind of card that I'm going to bring in for certain matches. Matches where I see 2 or more 4-drops that I would really like to counter, especially multiple bombs. I don't normally like to main deck it, but you're much more likely to main deck this in Sealed than you are in Draft. You're not going to see those lean pools. Actually, with that in mind, I actually might move that up to this pat, to the playable pile, because in Draft, would you normally play a Disdainful Stroke main board?
I don't think I would, but...
Now, if you were playing in Sealed, let's say you're playing a pre-release, would you be more likely to play something like a Disdainful Stroke?
It really depends on your pool. I would rather have proactive cards instead of reactive cards, but if that's all you got, that's all you got.
And you're more likely to see the bigger bombs, the bigger rares. Yeah. And that's where it shines. I'm not saying it's a premium card. I'm just saying it's better than normal. Molting Snakeskin and Ancestral Vision have a specific deck they go into. We'll see if this deck comes about. I don't normally like playing that extremely aggressive deck. Shatter is Destroy Target Artifact, an effect that we don't need. Swift Kick is close to playable. If I need the removal and I'm in something like a Jeskai or Mardu deck, I'll consider it. I think it shines most in the Teamer deck, but usually you have enough removal that you don't need it. So we're going to put it in the other pile. We'll come back to that pile. And Defiant Ogre is just a big creature that we hope we don't have to play. 6 for a 4/6 isn't awful, but it's not exciting. Roar of Challenge also goes in this Teamer deck. If we have the Teamer deck, we'll go back through and look through that. All right, so we're going to kind of count out the cards. We're going to set out each color into
spells and creatures.
Spells and creatures we find exciting, and the number is important for each. All right, so green, we have 6 creatures and 5 spells. That's quite a bit. We would need a card or a color that has a lot of creatures to support that. Red, we have a lot of removal, as is to be expected with that. So we have 4 creatures and 6 spells. We can't really play red-green by itself, just because we don't have enough creatures. Let's go ahead and look over to black. All right, we've got removal. We've got 2 throttles, which is exciting. It makes me want to play black. We have 2 Leash's Vanguards, which is more aggressive than less, but still not bad. All right, so we've got 7 solid creatures in black and 2 good removal, or 2 good spells, and 1 that's fine, but not exciting. So we're going to stack these up. Stack these up. If I had more space on the camera, I would set this out a little bit wider. All right, blue cards. All right, so Glacial Stalker, Scion of Glaciers, I'm excited about those. Wetland Sandbar, I'm not. Aven Severe, I'm not. All right, so blue definitely has some powerful creatures. Scion of Glaciers, Glacial Stalker, Wind Scout, and Aven Severe are 4 of the best blue common creatures, or 4 of the best blue creatures that are in the set. All very strong. And the Wetland Sandbar is fine. Blue cards that I'm excited to play here will be Treasure Cruise and Force Away, and then 4 that are okay. So I actually think the blue is fairly strong. We have a kind of even spread. You don't always see that. So Sometimes you have a heavier color than others, which is fine. If I only have 6 good green cards, but I have 14 okay. Whoa! Oh, I touched it again.
Wow. Just don't put your feet out, Daniel.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. You can put the two together, right? You know, if one of your colors is a 7 out of 10 and another color's just a 5, but the 5 has enough cards in it to even it out, your overall deck power could be better. And that's what you're looking for, is the deck that has the most amount of overall consistency and power. All right, so white, we've got 6 creatures and 4 spells. All right, so here's the tricky part. We're in multicolor, so our multicolor cards are going to decide that. The overall power level of all of these cards, of colors, is pretty close. I think that blue had 4 good creatures that make you want to play this, a Force Away and a Treasure Cruise. So they had 6 cards that made me interested in playing it. White had not really anything exciting. Brad's going to check through these and make sure that what I'm saying is true and not, you know. Alright, red's got 3 decent burn spells. Arrow Storm is good. Burn Away and Bring Low are cards you will play, but you're not excited to play. Black has 2 Throttles and an Sure Shot and a Typhoid Rats. All cards I'm very happy to play. So that's 1, 2, 3. It has 4 cards I'm happy with. And then green has Woolly Luxodon, Tuskguard Captain, Hooting Mandrills, and that's really all in that one. So each of these colors has a couple of cards, but no color has a lot. I think blue is our overall strongest color, but it's not much further ahead. So we're going to rely a lot more on our multicolor cards than we normally would.
Here. I just cut all the cards you're not going to play, basically.
Brad's going through and cutting cards he doesn't think he would play. Depends if we're in a 2 or 3 color. We're likely to be
Usually
3.
you're in a 3 with these particular sets.
Yeah, and that makes it easier to find playables. All right, so we've got Timor War Shaman. That's the first card that I really want to play. It's the kind of card that's going to win me the game all by itself. Ugin's Nexus is not playable, so we're going to set that to the side. And we're going to look through our multicolor cards to see where our multicolor powers lay. We're going to divide it into the clans. We're going to put Timor War Shaman with the green cards. Makes me want to play green. And Monastery Siege has a playable blue card, although it goes best in the Sultai deck. All right, so we've got the 5 clans. And here's Mardu, which we don't have any rares for. We've got Secret Plans, which goes in that very slow deck. We've got Firehoof Cavalries, which I'm not actually willing to play. Oh, I do. Or what is the clan I'm missing?
It would be
Jeskai. Here we go. So I've got Jeskai Charm.
It's not Jeskai. It's Abzan.
It's Abzan. Oh my gosh. Brad knows that I'm actually really bad at this. Okay, here we go.
It's just because you're talking while you're thinking.
Yeah. All right. So we can play this in either, and we can play this in either. So we've got Jeskai, Mardu, and Sultai that look especially good. We could play Abzan, but I don't think that's where we want to be. So we're going to look over our plans. In most sets, you're just going to pick the 2 colors that have the best overlay, right? Let's say that white has good removal, and red has the right amount of creatures I want, and that there's a bomb in white or red. I'm going to play that. Even if it's a single, let's say I've got a bomb that costs me a single black, I might splash for that bomb. In this set, it's a little bit more complicated. We're looking at our mana base to see if we have any doubles. We do not. We have all singles on the lands, which is fine. And we also have, we're not going to play Pilgrim of Fires or Heartpiercer Bro if we can avoid it. A Teamer Battle, or a Teamer Banner, which is fine if we end up playing that. Let's see.
So Jeskai Charm and Mana Strider are both very powerful.
They are.
And so is Crackling Doom and Ponyback.
We have 2 lands that go into the Jeskai deck. We've got 2 lands that go into the Sultai deck. We've got 2 lands that go into the Teamer deck.
And actually, this one can go here or here.
Blossoming Sands is only going to go in the Abzan deck, but if we end up splashing green in one of our decks, that can also be fine. Yeah. So we've got a decent bit. Right now we're looking at, we can be a Jeskai deck, a Jeskai Mardu deck. We can be an Abzan deck, not Abzan, we can be a Sultai or a Timor deck. Both of these wedges have 1 color overlay, so we could be a 4 color or a 3 color deck. and we're going to kind of look through the cards to decide which way we want to go. Now, we're going to look at Secret Plans. I don't think I'm going to play it. I don't think I want to play Fire of Cavalries. That's why I put that on the side. I don't think a 1 mana, 1/1 with the ability to pump for 4 mana is quite good enough. If we need to play it, it will be added, but hopefully we don't have to.
So I think next I usually look at removal. So we've got 2 white removal cards.
So we'll go ahead and put these down here. We'll kind of lump these together.
2 red removal cards.
The red removal cards will go in the middle because they can go in either of these.
3 removal cards.
3 red removal cards, one of which is splashable. Now, one of the benefits here, we actually have collateral damage, which is playable in more of the Mardu deck than it is in the Teamer deck. And we also have somewhere in here where it's Swift Kick. Swift Kick, which I would play in my Teamer deck, but not in any other deck, just because of the creature size. So we've got a couple pieces of white removal, a couple pieces of red removal.
And 1's green removal, but you have to be attacking.
We have a green removal that works on basically either end, on attacking or blocking. One mode works attacking, one works blocking.
Play those cards, or those cards.
And then we've got 2 throttles over here on the far black end, which goes on either side. Right? It goes over to Sultai, and it comes on over back around to Mardu. So black has 2 pieces of removal. Red has quite a bit of removal, but...
So if you're just going with just removal right now, we'd be choosing Mardu, because we've got 2 black removal, 2 white removal, 3 red removal, 4 red removal.
Right.
So that's a pretty solid amount of removal. We might end up actually cutting one of the double red ones here, except that one is really potent.
So we're going to go ahead and build one of the decks. There's multiple different decks. Here's the thing about Sealed. There's multiple different decks, and you should be sideboarding differently each game. Let's say one game I'm a Mardu deck with a Splash for Blue for a lot of removal. I think that's the first deck we're going to build. Well, there's also, say the next game I play, the small creatures aren't good. I don't want to be a small creature plan. I'd rather much be a grindier Sultai deck with the Rakshasa Vizier and those kind of cards kind of getting me more value. I might move in that direction. So we're going to start with the
Mardu?
Mardu Splash Blue deck, essentially. So the good news about the Mardu Splash Blue deck is we have 3 lands for it.
The Mardu Splash Blue deck. Never done this before.
Well, we can do a 4-color deck very easily in this set. We have the lands to it. We've got 3 lands, and we're only splashing for the best blue cards, which is a Mantis Rider, an Efreet Weapon Master, a Jeskai Charm. We have a Monastery Siege. We do not have Aven Surveyor, unfortunately. Very strong card, probably not making it here. Glacial Stalker, a Morph card, which is very easy to play. Jeskai Wind Scout, we may or may not play. Treasure Cruise. If we're rolling a blue splash, likely to play. I really
You've
think...
gone way past splash at this point. You've made a Jeskai deck.
Well, we're going to look at the cards, and we're going to kind of sift through. There's a lot of strong blue cards, so that's why I'm attracted to playing blue, is that these cards are very powerful. Jeskai Charm is a removal spell. Efreet Weapon Master often acts as a removal spell, and those are very beefy creatures. So they're the black cards we'd like to play. Throttle, the Stone Ancestor, Typhoid Rats we can play, Mardu Skull Hunter. Yeah,
all these are pretty good.
Let's not look at the blue one. Let's look at the black, red, white. Let's look at the Mardu aggressive deck. That's the one that Brad was building out here. So we're going to set our creatures up top.
Yeah. Wherever how you do it.
And we're going to go ahead and set our spells on the bottom row. So let's check through here to make sure there's nothing else we want to play.
That's good. If you're going to play red, you'll probably want to play these 3.
We might.
And these.
We might. We'll probably play Rush of Battle.
Maybe this one.
We'll probably play this. We might play Valley Dasher. Let's see if there's any of these cards we play over here. No. Oh. Alright, so we're going to set 2 rows. Here's my 2 drops. Here's my 3 drops. We're going to put all morph cards onto the 3 drop set. We've got our Canyon Lurkers, our Gore Swine, Shockmar Dragons over here in our 6s. We're going to see if we're going to play that or not. Alicia's Vanguard is in our 4s, even though we can dash in it in for 3, because we'd rather play it for 4 usually. Pony Back Brigade is our morph. Crackling Doom is one of the reasons we're playing the color. I set my cards that cost less than... I set my instants and stories where I want to play them, not where they are fit on the curve, because technically this is a 3-drop. But I probably do not want to play Crackling Doom on turn 3. So I'm going to set it over here on the 5s, which is where I'd like to play it. This matters quite a bit because I don't need white necessarily as early if I don't plan to play my Crackling Doom as early. Collateral Damage is another card that I plan to play around turn 4 or turn 5. Aerostorm's a card I'd like to play on time, as is Burn Away. Bring Low. Smite the Monsters is probably somewhere around 5 or 6. Kill Shot is somewhere around 5. Warflare is very late. Typhoid Rats is a 1-drop. It's nice to have 1-drops. Disown Ancestor is also 1-drop. This works nice with the activated raid and then 2 throttles and should like to land 5. Alright, so we need creatures. Soul Summons is fine. Timely Horde Mate is okay, although not great. Alright, so we're kind of low on lower drop creatures, which isn't terrible. I like Rush of Battle.
Especially if you have...
We have 1 warrior,
3 warriors.
2 warriors, 3 warriors, 4, 5,
That's actually really good.
6 warriors. So we have
It's uncommon to have that many in a sealed pool.
Now we have to choose between Rush of Battle and Warflare, which we don't want to play both of these. We need to decide if we'd rather have instant speed and untapping or the lifelink. And there's heavy arguments for both. Rush of Battle is going to be better in most races. Warflare is a combat trick in that you can just blow out your opponents. We'll look at that in a moment. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, wait, there's one more white card I actually wanted to play. Take Up Arms. I think that card's actually quite good.
It does make warriors.
It does. It makes multiple creatures instant speed. It's essentially a 3/3 with flash often for defensive or offensive purposes. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 creatures. So we have a sizable amount of creatures. So this deck's going to look like a bunch of creatures. We're going to play either 1 Rush of Battle or 1 Warflare. And the sideboarding would change this. Against decks where we're both attacking past each other, I like the lifelink. Let's say I'm playing a more evasive, especially let's say it's a deck with a lot of flyers. The lifelink's going to mean a lot more. Let's say that they're playing another deck with small creatures or a deck with just a few larger creatures. Warfare can let me kill their creatures and get through. So this will depend on which way I think it's going to go. I'd be tempted to start with the Warflare first, just being an instant, but it's very
I'd actually
close.
be tempted to do
Do
Rush of Battle because not only does it give toughness, but it can give a lot of your creatures lifeline.
They both give +2/+1. One of them is an instant that untaps creatures, and the other one gives warriors lifelink.
Yeah, and they both give +2.
They give identical.
Oh,
stats.
they do give that.
We could also go with both of them. If I had just a couple more things that made more creatures, let's say I had 2 Ponyback Brigades, I could be convinced into playing 2 of them and dropping something like a Kill Shot, which I actually think is one of the worst removal spells in this deck. Just because we're hopefully attacking more than being attacked, but that's not always the case.
Yeah,
Right.
and this only kills attacking creatures.
That's correct. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 removal spells. Spite the Monsters is probably the first card I would cut for removal. It kills their biggest creature, but the thing is sometimes they don't have a big creature. We have Aerostorm, Burn Away, Bring Low, Crackling Doom, and Throttle, which also do the same job. So we're going to go ahead and set this to the side. These are good cards that I'd be happy to sideboard in depending on the match. So now at this point we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. We're going to make one more cut. Now often you can look at playing 16 lands. I'm looking for a reason to play... I started at 17. If I have a very lean curve, somewhere from 3 down, right? My deck is just 3 this way. I'm probably playing 16 lands. It's very sleek. It's unusual in 3-color sets. And the other thing is, I want to be playing more lands than less. When you don't draw enough lands, you don't get to play Magic. That's bad.
Especially when you want to morph your creatures.
Yep, and with the morph cards, we're going to be looking at playing 17 or 18 almost always. This is probably a 17 card deck and not an 18 land deck. Just because we only have 2 morphs, 1 Outlast, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 ways to spend our mana well, but we really don't have a ton. And we want to have a more aggressive curve. So we're going to make one cut. I think it's the Kill Shot. It's the card that I think is least helpful in our extremely aggressive deck. Other things you could look at is we could cut a Shock Maul Dragon and put in the Rush of Battle for a lot more aggressive cards, for a lot more aggressive pressure, which would be fine. That might be a lot better. I can see that switch in a lot of matches where we're both racing. Smite the Monsters and Kill Shot usually come in the same times against like the Teamer deck or the much bigger decks where these are going to just kill cards by quite a bit. Active Treason's a card that also might come in against that.
Yeah.
Taking one of their big creatures. And we'd be looking to cut things like maybe Bring Low if they don't have 1/1 counters, or Warflare, or take these out completely for decks where they have a lot bigger creatures and we can't necessarily swarm around them as easily. Abzan Sky Captain might be bad in certain matches, although usually a 2/2 flyer is fine. So this deck actually looks really solid. This is definitely one of the top contenders for the decks I would consider playing. We only have one piece of fixing, which is kind of sad. The mana base would be heavily black-white with a splash of red. That's one of the other reasons that Shockmaw Dragon and Aerostorm aren't as attractive, but the fact that they're later in the curve means we don't have to worry about it as much. I don't have to play multiple mountains for something. If I'm playing, let's say, five mountains in the deck, I can reliably cast these that late, especially since I have the Windscarred Crags. I'm probably playing 4 mountains on Windscarred Crag or 5 mountains. Whereas I want this early black and early white happening pretty quickly. You could also consider looking at a deck that played less white and included more of the red cards. There's just not quite as many. You could have a weaker deck that's mostly black and red with a splash for white. I don't think that's the direction to go. So we have a black-white aggressive, or a Mardu aggressive deck, which is quite nice. Let's look at the Jeskai deck. It's the next one to look at. I like the Jeskai decks. They're a little trickier. It's sometimes harder to evaluate the power level of that deck. So essentially we're just taking out the black cards for the most part. The decks are moderately similar. Some of the cards get better because of the kind of synergies that are in it, and some of the cards get much worse. We losing Crackling Doom and the Throttles, and those are the big...
Not normal Crackling Doom either, a foil one.
A foil Crackling Doom. Valley Dasher and Mardu Rumark are playable cards, although not maybe
they'll probably end up getting cut.
So the reason I really like the blue is that the blue 4-drops here are really nice. We've got this guy, got an Aven Surveyor. I think our curve is higher overall with this deck, which is definitely a downside. For our Delve cards, we're going to want to play 2. Where are the rest of the blue Delve cards? Oh, here we go. The 2 we're probably going to go away with are going to probably be Treasure Cruise, and we have Set Adrift, we have Rite of Undoing. This bounces a card we control and a card our opponent controls, and this lets us put a card on top of our opponent's deck. Rite of Undoing is going to be better if we can synergize with it, so we're going to check at the end for which one of these will make our second Delve card. It's unfortunate we didn't get Delve cards in the other colors. So this is a 3-drop, this is a 3-drop, this is a powerful 3-drop effect. It's a 3-drop. So this deck I think is less consistent than the other one. I also think it's more powerful. If I want to test Jeskai Charm a little later. What are the white cards? I'll probably play this on 5 and 6. I really actually don't want to play Valley Dasher or Mardu. I'll play some removal at the 5-drop slot, the 5-drop slot, 4-drop slot, the 4-drop slot. Abzan Sky Captain's fine. We're not going to have as many creatures with converted mana cost 2 or less in this deck, so we're probably not going to play Timely Hordemate. Dragonbell Monk gains a lot of power in our deck with Prowess because there's more cards to Prowess. Active Treason is a card we'd probably not rather play. Goreswine's a great card in this deck specifically. Take Up Arms, Soul Summons. What other cards do we have? I thought we had just a couple more. If not, this deck is not looking right where we want it to be.
Unless you wanted to play the removal.
We'll be more willing to play removal in this deck because we're attacking in the air. So our opponent's going to have to race us in some manner.
I would not how many warriors you have for that card.
We're almost definitely would rather play the instant one in this one.
Yeah.
Alright, so how many cards do we care that have enter the battlefield effects is going to be Rite of Undoing? And I think it's actually just Aven Surveyor.
So we've got a Prowess guy, but his other effect is pretty useless.
Yeah, we don't want to play 4 for a 4-2. If it was a 3-3, we'd be more excited about it. And then we had the War Flare, and that's it.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah. So I think that this deck overall is usually less good. The decks where it is going to be better are the decks where your opponent's trying to attack with just a few creatures, and you can answer those creatures things like Kill Shot and the Burn. Get over with flyers. We have 2 flyers. We've First Striker. We've got Glacial Stalker, which is big. Sign of Glaciers, which is also a quite big creature. It's a 2/5. we've got Avon Surveyor and Shockmar Dragon. So this is emphasizing more of the evasion. I wouldn't start with this one, even though it's my more preferred playstyle, but I think so far the Mardu deck is the most powerful.
Looks way stronger.
But if I'm playing against something like an Abzan deck, and they're going wide, or not, they have some amount of ability to kind of go a little bit wide, this evasion is going to be where I want to be at. The Mardu versus Abzan matchup is usually favorable to the Abzan deck, whereas something with more evasion like this might be a little stronger. All right, let's look at the combination of these two decks, which is just a best of those. It's
just playing 4 colors.
Yeah, it's going to be the 4-color version. Now, the 4-color version is going to play a lot of cards that have 2 colors per se. I think that blue or red will be our base, and that the black and white cards will make up the strongest black and white cards there. I think that's going to be the best as far as curve considerations go. So, we are going to play all of the morph cards in the appropriate color. I also think this is going to be a much more controlling deck. The other ones, it's going to be willing to be a lot slower, playing lots of removal and just trying to get ahead one piece at a time. So we're not going to play things like Force Away here quite as much because we're not looking for the tempo. We're just trying to grind out wins with very powerful cards. Oh, for the Teamer deck, or sorry, for the
4-color non-green deck.
For the Jeskai deck, we have 2 lands of value here, which is nice. Land considerations mean a lot more. Alright, so we're probably not playing cards like Rush of Battle because it's not a combat trick. We probably won't play Warflare, even though it is better in this deck than the previous named decks. We're probably playing Orc Sure Shot as one of the more powerful creatures, and we're playing the 2 Throttles and a Crackling Doom. That's going to make most of the black. So if this is going to be a much more spell-heavy deck, we need to find the correct amount of creatures. We've got a lot of 3-drops, and then a couple other ones here. We're kind of relying more on our removal than necessarily on creatures to follow up. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we want to have a couple more creatures than this. We're going to play Monastery Siege as a card advantage engine and Treasure Cruise as a card advantage engine. Everything else is just going to be removal. And we're going to kind of set all that removal out a little bit more by color. With red and blue being our stronger colors, we get to play Arrow Storm, which is a big advantage. We get to play Jeskai Charm and Crackling Doom, which are both removal spells. We get Throttles and Kill Shot. So we've got a lot, and there's one other card we're going to play, the other morph creature. It was the... Oh, Ponyback Brigade. Where's that at? Here we go. So Ponyback Brigade is an excellent card for splashing because we don't need the black until later. Alright, and in this deck, we have the most amount of tokens. We have Ponyback Brigade, we have Take Up Arms, we have Jeskai Charm, which takes advantage of it, and Orc Sure Shot. So it's very easy for us to build a large amount of creatures quickly. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22.
Which is about right for 18 lands, which is probably what you want to do.
It is. And the nice part about this deck is
you
that
got 4, don't you?
Yeah. Is it allows us to play 3 cards.
Oh.
So our mana actually isn't as bad as it looks at first blush. I would only play this deck if I needed a lot of power. In those matches, I would also probably be playing Smite the Monstrous, so I'd be finding space for that. Or I'd be playing Warflare if I wanted to be able to have a strong amount of creatures out of nowhere. I personally don't think these 2 colors together are better than either of the other ones by themselves as far as power goes. I'd rather have a more consistent deck, but if you needed that raw power, this deck offers it. You've got a lot of really good removal. You've got a lot of premium removal. In fact, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 almost unconditional removal spells. It's quite a bit. If you're playing just the bombiest deck, this is the one to bring it in for. All right, let's put together the Sultai deck, which I think is going to be the next one we want to look at. One of the reasons I really like these colors is I think that Mantis Rider, Fruit Weapon Master, Ponyback Brigade, Crackling Doom, and Jeskai Charm are just excellent cards that do a lot by themselves and don't need a lot of synergy to be good. So I would probably play one of the first 2 decks we mentioned, but we are going to look at the other decks. I think that they're not going to hold up as well, but making the multiple pools and being able to identify them quickly is a big advantage You may also see us do a the Temur Sultai combination. The red here, we have a lot of good red removal, so it makes it very attractive to check that deck out multiple times. It's unfortunate we didn't really get an Abzan deck.
Yeah.
Usually you do.
That's what I generally like to play.
But it is definitely not here this time.
It is not.
So these are lands. Alright, so Secret Plans will base solely on its own deck archetype. It's a build around me uncommon card. In Sealed, you rarely have the necessary cards to go in this direction. But if we had 2 or 3, I would count to see if we had enough morph to commit to it. If we have a lot of morph in the deck, we may incidentally include Secret Plans, but cards like these tend to fare better in drafts, where you're focusing more on synergy and less on raw power. Alright, so we've got Rashaka Vizier, which is one of the cards that we're fine playing. It's 5 for a 4/4. And if they're exiled cards, it comes with that many 1/1 counters. It's not as powerful as it first looks. A lot of people overrate cards on the high ceiling, right? I mean, in theory, Rashaka Vizier could be huge. Really? It could be a 34/34. In practice, it's going to usually be a 4/4 or a 5/5, which is fine. But the fact that it doesn't have trample or any other ability means that we're not excited to play it. Are there any cards that are playable in here? Hopefully not. Are there any cards that are playable in here? Or are these all red?
Those are all the colors you're not playing.
There's a green. We might play Dutiful Return in this deck. We might play Incremental Growth. We might play Wink and the Bears, and we might play Scout the... We're almost definitely going to play Scout the Borders. Alright, so we're going to set our creatures and our spells out. Scout the Borders I'm going to play on 3. Awaken the Bear I'll play on 3 or 4. Incremental Growth I'll play on 5 or 6. Dutiful Return I'll play on 5 or 6. So I'll play that with Incremental Growth. Throttle I will play on usually 5. Rite of Undoing is one of my Delve cards. We'll set that to the side. Disdainful Stroke is not a card I particularly want to play. Glacial Stalker. So we've got the same exciting blue cards as before. We've got the Whisper of the Wilds, which I actually like quite a bit here, with the extra card advantage of things like Treasure Cruise, and usually in Sultai you have more, because it's a card advantage color. Things like Whisper of the Wilds are more playable in general. Woolly Luxon is one of the best reasons to be in green. We've got Longshot Squad. So green and blue does have a lot of exciting cards here. We could look at playing a green and blue deck. We're going to set Hooting Mandrels at 5. We'll usually cast it on 5. Timor War Shaman, another card that makes me want to play green, right? Alicia's Vanguards, which not particularly exciting. They're fine. Disown Ancestors. Mardu Skull Hunter, not quite as good in this deck as the other ones. We'll consider the Enhanced Awareness because the Delve... I don't think I'm really going to consider Force Away quite as much in this deck. Set Adrift, I might play Aven Surveyor. This actually does not look bad. This kind of set out actually has quite a few powerful cards. It doesn't have quite as high of top end as the other deck. We're not playing Tamers. Let's see. Alright, so the amount of morph cards we have to count first. We don't have enough morph. Just, you can tell by looking. We would need at least 5 morph cards when we consider the Secret Plans, and we're not even close to that. So looking at this curve, we actually have quite a few powerful cards. Let's take out the Alicia's Vanguards, as I'd rather not play them in this style of deck. But this actually looks like a very good mid-range deck. We've got only 3 cards that are really activating the Whisper of the Wilds, but the fact that it can just pump once is usually fine, and with the Incremental Growth, it's okay as well. I don't think... Well, I guess we would play both of these Delve cards. Unfortunately, we don't have a second good Delve card. Something like a Gurmag Angler would go a long way in a deck like this. This is probably one of the more consistent mid-range decks. If we needed a deck with a lot of toughness, I'd be willing to play something like this lines. What's this? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. A lot of good creatures. 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. So my cuts would actually be several. I would probably cut the Mardu Skull Hunter and the Wet Sandbar, as they're just not quite as effective as I'd like. Probably don't need 2 Whisper of the Wilds. Not sure. We'll hold those there for now. There's a couple of morph cards that can really take advantage of that. I actually really like the rest of our creatures. They're all very good. The creature quality in these 3 colors makes me want to play this quite a bit. Like, Brad, are any of these cards you wouldn't be happy to play, creature-wise?
As far as the creatures go, they all seem pretty strong. The the Outlast abilities are really good if you're trying to play a slower deck, and it looks like we are.
See how we have so many high cost cards
We do.
and high cost removal.
We've got the Delve Hooting Moundrels.
Now I would probably not. Let's see. I would probably not play this in the main board. I'd probably wait till I encountered a bunch of removal.
So we're going to take out Dutiful Return, Enhanced Awareness. We're probably only running either Awaken the Bear or Ruthless Instincts. One is +3/+3 and Trample. The other is Death Touch and Reach, which lets us kill flyers, or +2/+2 and Trample. I think I'd go with the flexibility of the Ruthless Instincts, unless you think Awaken the Bear is just usually better.
Depends on how many more cuts you have. I'd probably start by cutting some of your tricks.
We have 101 on Tricks and a Grim Contest, which I can.
I think I would keep Grin Contest.
Now, we have to decide if we want to keep something like Incremental Growth here. It depends on the number of creatures we have that we think would be good with counters. It's probably one of the first cuts. It's a powerful card in some matchups, but in a lot of times it's a risk more than it is a reward. And we already have a lot of cards. We don't need a high risk, high reward power card, per se. So I think that it's going to look a little bit more like this. We've got Monastery Siege, which is a card that's going to win you the game if it stays out. We've got Scout the Board, which is going to help you kind of fix your mana. It's a fine play on 3 most of the time.
And this puts us down to 23 right now. So
Yeah, so we would probably make one more cut, or we could just run 17 lands with the 2 Whisper the Wild, which I also like. This is probably the configuration I go with usually. It's actually a relatively solid deck, not very flashy.
it doesn't have as much removal as the Mardu deck.
But it has more cards you need to remove and are harder to deal with.
It has what? Wind Flyer? I'm only seeing Wind Flyer.
It has Jeskai Wind Scout and Avon Surveyor as our 2 flyers. It's got Woolly Luxodon and Hooting Mandrills and Rashaka Vizier as our bigger creatures. And then it's Temur War Shaman as a card that is a must answer. One of the things that I didn't like about the other 2 decks is we didn't have a threat that was a must answer. We didn't have a bomb.
That's true.
We had a very good low curve. It's very aggressive, could put a lot of pressure on. And sometimes that's the deck you want to play. This deck is playing more thick creatures that your opponent needs to answer quickly. Hooting Mandrills, Rashaka's Vizier, all of the Outlast creatures, Temur War Shaman. These are cards your opponent has to kill. And if they can't, they're going to get behind very quickly. We have cards like Awaken the Bear and Ruthless Instincts to help kind of, or Awaken the Bear more than anything else to protect the Temur War Shaman, if need be. All right, let's look at the Temur version, which does get to play some of the cards. You're not losing a lot of cards per se, and that's one of the things I think is going to be one of the stronger decks. Is we're losing a little bit of we're losing removal. But the good news is we're also getting removal in red. We get to play Swift Kick if we want to. We can play Shockmar Dragon, adding a little bit more pressure. We can play Burn Away, Aerostorm, Bring Low, Collateral Damage. Oh, with the Sultai deck, we had 2 solid lands. And one of my favorite reasons for playing this deck is we actually get the most amount of lands. We get 3 lands for the 2 colors. I think here... Are there more red cards we wanted to play that weren't just burn?
I don't think there were.
Let's double check. Goreswine is better in this deck, as is Canyon Lurkers. I'm okay playing those cards. Not super excited, but they're solid playables. So we've got a little bit more creatures here. A little bit more aggressive of a curve. Not sure if we're playing... We might play the 2 Whisper of the Wilds. We've got better mana. We've got less effects. We also have a Temur Ascendancy, which we need to count the amount of creatures with 4 innate power. And that's 1, 2, 3, 4. If we count it, between these 2 is probably 5. So we've got 5 cards that
Probably
benefit from the Temur Ascendancy. We would draw a card off of. You can technically trigger it with things like Awaken the Bear as well, although we're not likely to.
How?
Oh, when the trigger goes on the stack to check if it has the amount of power you
then
can
cast the
respond.
buff on it.
And it'll have haste so you can attack. It's not a wasted trigger per se. It's just not super interesting. This deck's more aggressive. I don't actually think it's better than the one we had before.
I don't think it's better than the Mardu deck. Mardu decks seem to have
I think the Mardu deck is our best aggressive deck.
the best.
I think that the Sultai deck, which surprisingly was our best deck to rely less I would be happy playing the Sultai deck or the Mardu deck. I think the Mardu deck is leaner. The decks that kind of stonewall it, you're going to usually lose to. The Sultai deck doesn't have anything that's particularly exciting outside of the Timor War Shaman per se, but it has a very consistent curve. This one's a little bigger. We've got the Shock Maw Dragon here as well. There's a little less synergy in some ways, but the creature density and power is very strong. We've got the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cards that go with the...
Yeah, and you could actually play this one. He's not the best, but he would trigger your Ascendancy.
I don't know if I'd play him to do that. If we wanted
It's
more
probably
big
not worth
creatures, probably not. We've got 2 good 5-drops and 2 good 6-drops. There's a lot of toughness going around here. We've got a lot of removal. That's what I like about this. Now, collateral damage actually is probably a card I would not be happy to play in this deck. I would actually take out the collateral damage because I'd rather not have to sacrifice my creatures because they're such a high quality. We've got the Scout the Borders, which I would also consider cutting in this deck. It's fine with the Treasure Cruise.
Well, that would get you
And
down
the
to 23, I think, if you cut
with the
that,
Hooting
so.
Mandrill. Yeah, I think the Scout the Borders is the first cut I'd make. I don't know. Might be one of the red cards. No. Might be the Timor Ascendancy. Timor Ascendancy is one of those cards that can be powerful or can be weaker. This is also the kind of deck you might actually end up playing incremental growth in more often. Even though there's less targets, the thickness of the targets makes them harder to kill. And the fact that you're usually more aggressive than not. Although I still don't think I'm playing. I think it's best in the Abzan deck that's playing a lot of Outlast. Although there's a fair amount of Outlast in the Sultai deck as well. It's 2 of the 3 colors. Alright, let's look at the combination of the two. I don't think that the Timor Sultai deck is going to be as good as the Mardu Jeskai deck was. The Mardu Jeskai deck filled a unique niche of powerful evasion cards with a lot of removal. I think it's one of the decks I would be most interested in deciding board into when I needed powerful effects to kill opponents' cards and other cards to get through. But yeah, let's see. It's playing the best of both of those colors, which is Sure Shot, Grim Contest, Throttles. None of those cards, none of those cards. Probably Scout the Border in the multicolor deck just because you really need to be able to get the mana colors you want. And it's a little bit tougher in that. I don't think there's a lot of actual... Yeah, there's not really any good layover there. I think the only real advantage to playing that is that you get to pick up one more land. So I don't think I'd play that T-color combination. The last thing you can do, especially when you have the amount of lands that we do, is you can look at the 5-color deck. We'll look at it. It's probably not playable. That's going to be all of your best removal and all of your best bombs. Now, the hard part about the deck is figuring out where you want your mana to be.
Yeah, you usually play the Death Touch 1/1 when you play stuff like that.
If whatever our base color is going to determine what our colors are. And we're going to choose our base color based on the best curve for the low drops. That's red, so we've got to redo our cards. Cards like Timor Ascendancy are probably less good because it's hard to get the 3 colors together, and that's a card that's not as good late as it is early. You're not normally going to play the 5-color deck. It's usually just when you need the most amount of power. I'm not particularly fond of playing it in competitive events. I think Brad's right that Mardu is our best deck. I think the second best deck is Sultai. I think the third best deck is the Mardu combination with Jeskai Splash. Now, those decks are all very close, and power level, you don't have to just stick with one. You're choosing your starting deck and sideboarding into the other decks. That's the thing to remember about Sealed, is that you have many more options, and making multiple decks is highly advised. Let's double check to make sure none of these cards are playable. They're probably not. Collateral damage maybe, but probably not. I don't think anything else is here. Take Up Arms, Warflare might be, Smite the Monsters might be. I think that's about it. Alright, so we're hoping that the overall power of having all 5 colors is just going to be so overwhelming that we just can't resist playing it. Timor Banner is probably only coming in this deck. Alright, so we're going to play all of our removal and all of our powerful cards in this deck probably. Which means we're playing almost no white. We're not playing any double cards. Incremental growth could be very good in the deck, but unless we're base green, it's too hard to play that. Although Temur War Shaman is a card that we are willing to play double green for. So let's go ahead. Green may end up being a base color, just due to the strength of green. Scout the Borders is a card that makes you want to be base green. Hooting Mantle is a card that makes you want to be base green. We're probably base green red if we're playing this deck. Black is basically an Orc Sure Shot and 2 Throttles. The Type Board Rats is a consideration, but the fact that we have to pay so long. Sign of Glaciers, even if we're base blue, is not worth playing because we want more than one of that effect probably. And I think we're actually base green-red in this deck. Aven Surveyor is one of the sad cards we don't get to play. We play Treasure Cruise, Monastery Siege. We might play Wind Scout. Alright, so let's go ahead and set this out. And let's look at the multicolor cards that we'd be happy to play. We're going to play all of the most powerful cards. Mantis Rider is one of the cards we'd happy to have at any point in the game. Otherwise, we wouldn't play it. And we might play Rashaka Vizier. This deck's looking like a pile.
It really is looking like a pile.
I don't think it's really going to make us anywhere. But it could be a deck worth looking at. I don't think it's going to be the deck we want to play. I think the deck we want to play is the one we started with, which is fine. It's fine if the first deck you look at is the strongest deck.
It's actually best.
Often your intuition's correct. We did have 2 other decks, or 3 other decks. 2 other decks that were fairly close. At the Temur deck's fine. It's just usually you play the Sultai deck over the Temur deck. Sometimes there's going to be exceptions to that rule. But yeah, the last 2 decks we looked, or the Sultai deck, the Mardu deck, the Jeskai deck, and the Mardu Jeskai deck were just very strong. I'd be happy to play any of those decks. Alright. This deck, however, is going to be base red-green. And it plays a lot of removal. That's the nice part. All of this is removal. We have 1 billion removal spells. That's why we want to play it. We probably don't have good mana at all. That's why we don't want to play it. We're base red. Probably base red, green, blue. Which is fine. We have a lot of 3-drops, which is a plus. We've got a good 5-drop here, a good 4-drop here, a good 3-drop. So, you know, we've got a lot of good 3-drops. I don't think we're playing Into One Growth. We are playing Temur Basil. Okay. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. We're going to cut Sharkmaw Dragon. 19. We'd want to be playing it. We're probably not playing Dream Contest. And we're probably not playing Switch Kick. I don't mind playing the rest of these. We get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 removal spells. The thing that stands out to me is that this is about the same amount of removal we had when we played the Jeskai Mardu deck. And I think I would just be tempted to always play the Jeskai Mardu deck over this deck. The only thing we really get of significance of playing this deck, so the Jeskai Mardu deck, is we get Hooting Mandrills and Temur War Shaman. Green really just didn't have enough for us not to want to exclude it. So yeah, I think we'd start with that Mardu deck that you started with is the most powerful deck. And I think the deck that I'd be most likely to board into is the Jeskai Mardu deck. I like having the 9 removal spells against the deck that I need it with evasion.
Yep.
But the Sultai deck and the pure Jeskai deck were also viable options. This is a weird set because we usually have multiple decks you can play. Like usually there's 4 or 3 very good decks just due to the little crossover in cards. We didn't have an Abzan deck. We could have looked at an Abzan deck. It's just not particularly exciting. But usually you'll have at least 2 or 3 decks. And most sealed pools you've opened, you've decided to go with your opening one, but you saw a couple other ones.
Yeah, there's always some option. It really feels like you're pigeonholed for this particular set because they're definitely best cards.
There definitely were. We saw 2 different ones, right? The big advantage we had to wanting to play the Jeskai deck is that Mantis Rider was an extremely good card. It's one of the biggest reasons. Mantis Rider and Fleet Weapon Master were very good creatures. Now, when we looked at Mardu, I think we only had 1 good creature. I think it was just Ponyback Brigade. I think everything else...
Yeah, but we had 2 good spells to go with it, right?
We had good spells. We had Crackling Doom as opposed to Jeskai Charm. Both are very powerful.
Yeah, and then we had the 2 Throttles.
We had the Throttles, which are okay, but the 2 of them match up to making a very solid card. And I think that's the synergy of the Mardu decks with the amount of removal and kind of the ability to go a little wider pushed it slightly over, right? I think that Jeskai Charm and Crackling Doom are very comparable. Crackling Doom is going to usually answer their best creature and slightly damage them. Jeskai Charm's a card that won't always answer their best creature, but can kill the opponent easier, can gain you more life in more situations. It's more versatile. It has more good situations, whereas Crackling Doom has a much better floor. Neither of these cards have a bad floor.
Yeah, 4 damage or 2 damage.
Yeah. It's Jeskai Charm is more likely to win you games, and Crackling Doom is more likely to stop you from losing games.
So.
And often the not losing games is a much more valuable aspect than the necessarily quote-unquote winning the games, even though that sounds like an odd situation.
Yeah.
But that kind of sums up what you're doing with Sealed, is you're setting out, first of all, you're dividing your cards. You want to peer over your rares, because your bombs are going to kind of help guide you to what you want to play. And then you're going to go through each of your colors and weed out the cards you don't think are playable. So cards like Swift Kick that go in a specific deck but not most decks. Dazzling Ramparts, cards you might put in a deck later but you're not happy or excited to play. Let's see, what else do we have? Doodle for a Return, right? That's another card that you would put in some decks, but you're not usually wanting to put in immediately, just due to the fact that it's not particularly strong. Secret Plans, cards that require a deck to be built around them. Abzan Rune Mark, right? Cards that can go in a deck, but aren't impressive by themselves. These are the cards you're trying to weed out. In addition to cards like Lotus Eye Mystic, which are just not playable unless you don't have a position, unless you absolutely have to, or Defiant Ogre. You're never happy to play the Defiant Ogre, but sometimes he has to be your 6-drop. After you weed those out, you're going to look at each color on its own, and that's kind of going to inform you of which colors need to be paired up. Let's say we only had 6 really good cards in green, like 6 All-Stars. We had 7 green cards, and 6 of them were just amazing. And let's say that red was not one of our best creatures, or best colors, but it had enough creatures. It had enough creatures in removal to be fine. I might play the red-green deck, where the green's providing a lot of the high-end power, and the red's providing a large amount of cards to play with it. That's fine. It's one of the reasons Marty ended up being our deck of choice. It didn't have the most power, but across all the colors, it had the most amount of removal and the most amount of consistency. I think our most powerful color combination was either Teamer or Soul Tie, which I wasn't as impressed with. It might have been, actually, I guess the most powerful deck, per se, was the, it was the Teamer. The Teamer deck? Yeah, with the red removal spells. It just,
I mean, unless you count the power of all 5 colors.
The power of all 5 colors, the problem with it is we don't get to play the best cards. We don't get to play the Aven Surveyor, which is what I want to play. Yeah, it was definitely the Teamer deck. It had Aven Surveyor, Shockmaw Dragon, and the Timor Battle Chief. I think that's one of the least powerful decks that we could have played, per se. But yeah, after you go through, you look at each color of cards and weed out the ones you don't want to play and figure out where the strengths of each card are. You want to put together the best, probably most of the time 23 to 22 cards, hey Rise, that work for your specific deck that's going to be posted. And then don't be afraid to change your deck each round, or not each round, each match you play, right? I might play 3 different decks. I'm probably not. I'm probably playing.
Probably not doing that.
I am probably playing 2 different decks. Me and Brad are probably playing game 1. I'm looking at his deck, and I'm probably changing to the deck I think fits best against his deck. I'm especially doing that if he is sideboarding differently. Understanding your sideboard is important. If Brad, builds this deck that's going to beat my Mardu deck by going wide and stopping all my little guys on the ground and having a bunch of 2/2s on the ground, he's going to be very sad playing against my Jeskai deck that's going to fly over and murder him.
Yep.
Makes him not feel good. If your opponent's playing a deck that is a lot, or a small amount, if they're playing more of a swarm strategy and you don't think you can beat that, maybe playing something like your Sultai deck, which is a lot stronger, has a lot of removal, and has a lot of thick creatures, all of a sudden it's harder for him to get through. His plan of winning with War Flares and racing me with a bunch of 3/3s stands pretty poorly against my army of 4/4s, killing his creatures. So, yeah, that's one of the things I guess don't see in Sealed is people using the sideboard as much. we'll be putting this up so you guys can check it out and review it. We'll talk more about Seal if you guys want us to. We'll play Seal on MTGO. I'm a pretty big fan of it. I like playing it a lot. I have a better win record with it, but if you guys aren't really interested in that, we won't.
I'm looking forward to playing Modern Masters online.
We will be playing Modern Masters online as soon as that comes out.
I've done 3 drafts already in person, and they were all incredibly fun.
We're looking forward to that.
So, and I did split first for one of them.
So Brad's been doing pretty well with that.
Yeah.
Tomorrow we'll be doing a draft. Not sure if we're doing Tempest Remastered, Fate Reforged with cons or with dragons. We'll kind of leave it up to you guys if we have people, and if we don't, we'll leave it to our whims and whimsy.
All right. Thank you for tuning in.
Yeah.